2024 is here, and along with the new years comes new games for us to dive into. That being said, I'm going to provide you 14 of the best JRPGs you can look forward to playing this year. These games will be ordered based on release dates, but luckily for us, the beginning of the year is actually jam-packed with some of the best games on this list. But I won't waste any more of your time. Let's go ahead and dive into the first game, and personally the one I'm the most excited for. Granblue Fantasy Relink is a highly anticipated action JRPG released in February 1st. This game will include a 20-hour story and 100+ hours of post-story content. Now, this post-story content will come in the forms of raids that you can play online with up to 4 friends. Currently, there are 18 different playable characters, each providing a unique combat style and gameplay experience. If this is something that piqued your interest, I already have several videos on the channel highlighting this game, which I'll link at the end of this video. I also plan to cover this game and pretty much every other game on this list in depth, so I really would appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel and help me get this video to 50 likes so we can get it out to as many people as possible. But due to the fact that I already have so many videos on this game, I'm not going to spend too much time discussing anything else here. Next up, we have Persona 3 Reload, dropping just one day after Granblue Fantasy Relink on February 2nd. Persona 3 Reload is an attempt to modernize Persona 3 with graphic enhancements, quality of life features, and an updated UI. The original game was well received, so I have high hopes for this remake. I got into the Persona franchise with Persona 5, but I never played any of the previous games, only because I wasn't a fan of the graphics. Now, if you fall into that same boat, Persona 3 Reload is the perfect opportunity to explore deeper into the franchise. Lastly, on the lineup for February, we have Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, released in February 29th. This is the second game in the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy, and easily one of the most anticipated JRPGs of the year. This trilogy not being a one-to-one remake of the original game left everyone with several questions we expect to be answered in this game, but there is also the chance that this game leaves us with even more questions based on whatever they change. Just Zack being alive has been a crazy reveal that will majorly impact the story. The first game was a perfect blend of an action and a turn-based JRPG, and I look forward to seeing how they improve on this system with the sequel. The main story is estimated to be 40 hours long, but I feel like this game is also one of those games that's been covered in depth everywhere throughout the entire progression of its development. So I'm not gonna spend too much time on it in this video, but I feel like it's something that I have to include. Dragon's Dogma 2 releases March 22nd, giving you plenty of time to play the first game if you haven't already. Dragon's Dogma 2 is a single-player action JRPG that allows you to customize your character and 3 other companions known as pawns who will fight alongside you. They bring back the vocation system from the first game, but for those of you not familiar, there's 9 vocations that act as classes that also allow you to change the combat style of your character and your pawns. Another cool feature is that you can recruit 2 additional pawns that are trained and created by other players to join you in your journey as well. So although I can't play this game with my friends and it's not multiplayer, I can pull my friends' pawns to come join me on my journey, which I think is a really nice touch to kind of bring that outside element into the single player game, given the fact that you couldn't make it multiplayer. Your pawns will grow throughout their journey with you, and when they're also temporarily recruited by other players, which is going to affect their behavior as well as their gameplay from those experiences that they've been through. Dragon's Dogma 2 is a massive upgrade from the first game, which many already viewed as one of the best action JRPGs of all time. Even if you've never played the first game, I wouldn't recommend skipping this one. I personally have never played the first game, but my game plan is to watch a few YouTube videos to catch me up to speed on the story and dive straight into my journey. Next up, we have Eiyuden Chronicles 100 Heroes, a turn-based JRPG led by the creators of the Suikoden series, and I apologize if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but the 2D pixel art graphics combined with the 3D backdrop are a unique blend that provide that nostalgia factor but also feel like I'm playing a modern game. In addition to the 6-character turn-based combat system, there's also a war mode and several other mini games to keep you entertained as you play through the story. I feel like we've gotten sequels to several games on this list, but in this case, there's actually a prequel available now named Eiyuden Chronicles Rising. This is one of the few 2D pixel art games on this list, so if that's something that you're very interested in, I recommend giving this franchise a try. The prequel actually goes into kind of some of the backstory of the characters that you're going to meet in Eiyuden Chronicles 100 Heroes, so that is something that you can do if you want to dive deeper into the lore and you enjoy these types of games. But you can expect this one to be released April 23rd. On April 25th, we'll be getting the game SaGa Emerald Beyond, which is a turn-based RPG. You'll have the option to select between 5 different protagonists and play through 17 interconnected stories that's going to be dictated by the choices you make. The SaGa franchise, if you're not familiar, is a turn-based JRPG that prioritizes player freedom to control the narrative. Now, it is a series, but it isn't one of those games that you have to play the previous one to understand this one. So if you've never played a SaGa game before, this is the perfect one to get started and introduced to the franchise. This game is a game that I'm sure you're all familiar with. It's been shown off everywhere, but it's going to be Black Myth Wukong, which is an action-based RPG, and we finally have a release date for it being August 20th, 2024. This game is loosely based on the Chinese novel Journey to the West with kind of a darker spin to it. So I expect big things when it comes to the Chinese mythology lore. But if lore isn't necessarily your thing or the story when it comes to games, it's also a big plus that the combat looks refined and the graphics are on point. You'll be able to switch through different combat stances, which are going to change your combat style. Now that, combined with the fact that you can't block any enemy attacks, is going to make for fast-paced, twitchy battles. Now, I apologize that I don't have a lot more on this game. This is one that I've been trying to avoid any other information for, so I didn't want to do a lot of research because this is one of those games I want to enjoy and kind of experience for myself, with everything being brand new. That wraps up all the JRPGs we currently have release dates for. Now we'll be diving into games that we can expect to be released in 2024 at some point. At the end of this section are the mobile games for those of you who don't have the option to buy games frequently, but still want to enjoy the genre. But that's later. To open up this section though, we have Visions of Mana, an action-based JRPG by Square Enix, confirmed to be releasing in 2024. This is the first mainline title in the Mana series in over 15 years. As an outsider of this franchise, I've always thought the Mana series was just 2D pixel art games, since all I've known about this series is Trials of Mana and Collection of Mana. So when I saw this title, I just expected another pixel art game. But boy, have I never been so happy to be wrong in my life. The visuals on this game are top notch, and I don't even know how to explain it, but the art style is extremely relaxing to look at. So I went into watching the trailer for this game, not expecting it to be anything that I enjoyed, but by the end of the trailer, you have me sold, and this is easily one of the top games I'm most excited for in 2024, and I'm gonna be tapped in. This was just announced recently though, so there isn't much information on this game aside from the announcement trailer, but seeing the previous mainline game compared to this one, you can tell they've been in the lab cooking for these last 15 years, wanting their next release to be correct and up to date with kind of the standards of gaming today. The next game we have is Blue Protocol, an anime-themed MMORPG. Like other MMORPGs, Blue Protocol has character creation, classes, and a crafting system. You'll also be able to party up with friends to do everything from dungeons to raid bosses. The combat system is pretty standard of what you would expect from an MMO, aside from the fact that you'll be able to frequently utilize summons, which are going to be intertwined with your combat style. Everything about gear progression is very RNG based, where you get X mat, craft X item, and hope for the best stat rolls. And so you can expect to spend a lot of time grinding out the best in slot gear with this game. Blue Protocol though is another game I've talked about on this channel in extreme detail. So if you want more, click on the channel after this video. I made a video on pretty much every topic about this game and did a detailed review of the JP beta test. Like I said, if this is something that piques your interest, check out the channel where I dive deeper into every nook and cranny. Lost Soul Aside is another game that's been on my radar for an early 2024 release. This game is an action JRPG that gives me Final Fantasy 15 without a party vibes. Now that's probably due to the main character's design and the fast-paced combat weaving through weapons, but all that aside, the visuals for this game are some of the most crisp I've seen in a long time from this genre. One thing I can appreciate though is from the start, the highlight of this game have been the graphics and the gameplay. I feel like I've been kind of disgruntled with so many games that focus on the cinematic cutscenes, and then we actually get the gameplay and it looks like crap. This game we know what it is from the start. So as long as the story's on par with everything we've seen so far, this game is an instant purchase and you should definitely be on the lookout for it. Metaphor ReFantazio is another sorta turn-based JRPG releasing in 2024 from Atlus, the company behind the Persona and the Megami Tensei series. In that vein, this game pulls features from both of these titles, taking the Persona calendars, social links, and confidant system and fusing it with several features from the Megami Tensei series. The best way to describe its link with the Megami Tensei series is similar to Final Fantasy. You'll have several skills, summons, or items from other games, but it's a standalone game in itself with no story or character affiliation. They implemented a new battle system that hasn't been on any of their previous games that allows for action-based combat to clear some of the weaker enemies and turn-based combat to take on the more challenging content. They leave that up to the player on if they feel the enemy is going to be weaker than them, so every single monster that you see on the field, you can attempt to take on with the action-based combat, but you may end up having to switch to turn-based combat if you're deemed weaker. While I do appreciate the other series a lot, I like that they're taking risks to further enhance the mechanics from previous games as they build on their next standalone series. Now we're gonna move into the mobile gaming section I referred to in the beginning of this, which also isn't a bad thing because these mobile games have come a long way, and all three that are on this list are going to be mobile games that are releasing on mobile as well as PC, similar to Genshin Impact. But speaking of Genshin Impact, we're going to start with Zenless Zone Zero, a free-to-play action JRPG developed by the same creators of Genshin Impact as well as Honkai Star Rail, Hoyoverse. You can expect this game to be similar to Genshin Impact, but with like a cyberpunkish environment and character designs. The combat is fast-paced and will allow you to weave between characters in your party, but with this being a mobile game, you can expect non-stop new characters to be thrown at you, which also will change up and give you a unique gameplay experience from person to person. Just so I don't have to keep repeating this, all of the games in the mobile section are gacha games, and with that comes a problem of gacha games such as summoning on characters, time-gated progression, and depending on RNG and spending money to try and lure you into loot boxes. But I just wanted to get that out of the way on the first game so I don't have to keep repeating it. Project Mugen is the next game we'll be discussing that was recently revealed and has an oddly similar setting to Zenless Zone Zero, and especially when you see them like right after one another, the way they're set up in this video, you're gonna be like, damn, somebody copied someone else's homework. But there are a few differentiating things from Project Mugen to Zenless Zone Zero. We've only got a few trailers, so it's kind of hard to judge how good this game exactly will be and the depth of the combat system as well as the character progression. But from what we've seen so far, I'm excited for it because the graphics and the gameplay look amazing. Watching these trailers, it's given an anime gacha Grand Theft Auto, and it's definitely one of those games we'll need to be on the lookout for. But this could be like those games that I mentioned earlier, where they lead with like a banging cinematic trailer with flashes to pre-rendered gameplay, and then as we progress into the development cycle, we see it slowly start to fall down. Which is actually pretty ironic because the last game in our mobile section is kind of like, that's kind of what I feel they did, but it is definitely something that needs to be a JRPG to be on the lookout for, 7 Deadly Sins Origin, which is also going to be another action-based JRPG. I know people hate hearing Genshin Impact comparisons, and I've done it for pretty much every game on this mobile gaming list, but that's the state of the genre. We're getting a bunch of Genshin Impact clones, and this game, so far, is literally a clunky Genshin Impact with the 7 Deadly Sins skin. This game is meant to be the successor to the hit mobile game 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross, and in the initial trailer, the anime gaming community was shook. But the more that we've been shown this game, the less excited I've become. They definitely led with their best foot forward and gave us this like beautiful cinematic trailer to get us super hype. But then they slowly started showing us several minutes of gameplay, and unless things don't change come launch, it's looking a little clunky, but I'm still optimistic and waiting to play the game. before I fully write it off. So I feel like it's worth adding to this list, and it's still in development. So who knows what portion of the development phase they're in when they're showing us this sort of clunky gameplay. After doing the research for this video, I'm even more excited for the JRPGs to come in 2024. We've went into 14 straight bangers, but if I missed any you're excited for, feel free to drop those down in the comments down below. Now that you have a few JRPGs to look forward to, check out this video detailing why you should be excited for Granblue Fantasy Relink coming this February. Thank you for your time, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.